All right, we're going through like one of the oldest texts in Christianity that no one's been able to read, that was written by Isus himself and sent by Hermes, his messenger. And it was he wrote primarily to the black people because he was homies with the black people. Like he was in Alexandria, Egypt, and the black people have been defined as Egyptian and also as the contrary powers, because someone needed to say like this is what we were calling them at that time. In another document, it was the commentary on Ezekiel. We've learned that Isus was a lord of the land. Like he was a lord of Nazareth, which means he was the person who owned the wheat fields that he was telling people that they could eat from for free. I guess he told them they could eat there on the Sabbath specifically. But we also learned that the Levites took over after Isus died. They retook over the church because they converted to Christianity and they became the Catholic Church, and that like they put like special rules into Origen, which was the like founding text of the Christian church. Like we need to let the Levites drink after they pray. And at that point, they became extremely obsessed with like you giving them all their possessions because you believe in Isus, you need to give me everything you own. But fortunately, the contrary powers knew something, and they knew that they shouldn't trust the Jewish people. We found where it was changed out, where this person literally says, "Nevertheless, the black people wish to attribute the most impious doctrines to the name of Christ and to the teachings of the Son of God, and has been able to convince some that we ought not to pray. The ones who defend this opinion are those who do away with the perceptible things entirely and practice neither baptism nor the Eucharist." And think about what we learned from the text, the commentary on Numbers, which seems a lot of like the commentary on Exodus that someone hid because they didn't want people to know it was about Numbers. And we learned what? That everyone set out from Ramses. Like that was like the like order in which things happen. Like everything starts with Ramses, and Ramses was Ra, and that's Amun-Ra, that's the sun god, and that's like the god of Egypt especially. And if you notice somewhere in the text, it was talking about like the sun god for sure. Like one of Origen's texts, it might have been the commentary on Genesis. Like I haven't reread, I just kind of read the intro real quick. I read a lot of the intros before I got one book, and now I'm almost done with this one book. So in the place of like what was prophesied, there's a statement of faith from the Catholic Church, which is a statement of faith from the scribes, which are the Levites, right? But then we get to an actual writing by Origen, which tells you what this guy sounds like. Of the things that are moved, some receive their motion from outside themselves. For example, things that are lifeless and held together in nothing more than a fixed system, and things that are moved by nature and the animating principle, since when they are moved, it is not by what makes them what they are, but in a way like the things held together in nothing more than a fixed system. For stones and pieces of wood, when dug out of a quarry or having lost the power of growing, since they are held together in nothing more than a fixed system, receive their motion from outside themselves. Moreover, both the bodies of living beings and the produce of plants, when moved by someone, are not moved by what makes them living beings and plants, but like stones and pieces of wood cause all bodies are in a state of flux and are wasting away. They have this motion merely as a consequence of their wasting away. A second class of things that are moved consists of things moved by the nature or animating principle that exists within them. These are said to be moved out of themselves, in the opinion of those who use words with great precision. A third kind of motion is that found in living beings, which is called motion from themselves, and I believe that the motion of rational beings is motion through themselves. Now, if we take motion from itself away from a living being, it cannot any longer be supposed to be a living being, but will be like a plant moved only by nature, or like a stone hurled by something outside itself. But if something follows along by its own motion, since we call this motion through itself, then it must necessarily be rational. Okay, I really like that. He's arguing in favor of like rational like behavior, where like you don't go in motion because of God. Like he's arguing at that point in history. Like I've been taught different things, which fortunately I was taught different things, which is to trust God too much. But like clearly he's saying like you need to have motion through itself, which is rational motion. Like which like the motion is like whatever you do, your acts, your behaviors, like what things what behaviors you do. like you would say like you're like in a state of potentiality if you overthought through my video about God, and like you're not in actuality, like you were changing, and that's why it's talking about plants. Like you are not a stone or a piece of wood that has lost the power of growing. But you need to grow from yourself, is basically like the argument, but like you need to grow from yourself through reason and through rational thinking. Let's go to 2. Therefore, those who want to say that we have no freedom must necessarily admit something extremely foolish. First, that we are not living beings, and second, that we are not rational beings. On their view, since we are in no way moved by ourselves, but by something moving outside ourselves, we may be said to do what we suppose we are doing ourselves only because of that external cause. On the contrary, let anyone pay special attention to his own experiences and see whether he will not say without blushing that it is he who wills, he who eats, he who walks, he who gives his assent and acceptance to certain opinions, and he who rejects others as false. So like assent to opinions would be like he gives you the ability to like grasp an opinion. Most people can't understand this stuff. And if we assume that our freedom is in no way preserved, it would be impossible for a person to assent to certain opinions, even if he builds them up with 10,000 ingenious explanations and employs persuasive arguments, and it would be similarly impossible for a person to have any conviction about human life. For who is affected by the fact that nothing is certain or lives in such a way that he suspends judgment about everything whatsoever? Who does not strike a servant when he forms the impression that the servant has done wrong? Who is there who does not accuse a servant accuse a son who does not give due respect to his parents, or who does not blame and censure the adulteress as one who has done something shameful? The truth forces itself upon us, and even if someone gives 10,000 ingenious explanations, it compels us to act and to give praise and blame on the assumption that our freedom is preserved and that its exercise by us is subject to praise or blame. That makes sense. If you look at 2, like I'm going back, like you can see clearly, like he knows that we are rational beings. Like we can figure out this thing's about to be censored. It's like really like something that seemed like it was trying to like get across early in the church. Like you're a rational being. Like when something changes, like wait, that was the part about being rational, and then like something has changed here. Like if we jump ahead, like I didn't even notice this part. I don't know when I stopped, but like I found it. Like it says, who does not strike a servant when he forms the impression that the servant has done wrong? Like this guy literally says that. Like who doesn't beat their servant? Like everyone knows we beat our servants, which is helpful because like who does not blame the censure of the adulteress? Sometimes your relationship is like that over. So yeah, like I think like I do have to trust myself because like who can cast judgment on a person? Depends on like how you're an adulteress. Clearly, it's pretty obvious that the people that edited this text were pretty messed up in the head, and I think that like it's difficult to deal with a text with people that was written by people that are like that awful, and they were that in charge of the church that early, and they were in charge of the Ark of the Covenant. Wow, it disappeared. The most holy thing ever just disappeared. No one gives a shit about the Ark of the Covenant. That's our entire religion. Somehow it disappears. No,